Well, now for some more analysis, let's go to Daniil Manaenkov. He is the head of US forecasting and a researcher at Michigan University, the University of Michigan. Daniil, thank you very much for joining us. So they are at last going after Putin and Lavrov. They're going after their assets. What does that actually mean?
Thanks for having me. So, I mean, that is probably more of a political gesture because they don't have that many assets. And it's basically trying to ramp up the pressure and make them feel less welcome. So, I mean, economically, I'm not exactly sure what kind of impact that's going to have.
Right. It's something that the president of Ukraine very much wanted to happen, isn't it? Why did it take so long, do you think?
So, I mean, it's one of the things that the president of Ukraine wanted, and other things that he's demanding are probably a lot more important, which is the potential of exclusion of Russia from SWIFT and maybe sanctions on the energy sector. The personal sanctions are probably more of a symbolic importance and basically mark the leadership of Russia is more like that of Iran.
Right, let's talk about SWIFT, because as you rightly say, that is one of the arguably more important things that the president of Ukraine would like to see introduced. We have a graphic to explain to our viewers what SWIFT actually is. Here it is now. It's basically, you can think of it really as Gmail for banks. That's how I think about it anyway. And it was created by US and European banks. It links 11,000 financial institutions around the world. It's used in 200 countries and territories. And in 2021, records show that there were 42 million messages per day. So the big question is, what is going to happen regarding SWIFT? Will Russia be excluded from it, do you think, Daniil?
I think it will probably happen because, I mean, war is terrible, and the social media and the mainstream media are very good at amplifying anything that will happen on the ground. And at some point, the pressure on the Western leadership will probably become unbearable. So I think it will happen. Exclusion from SWIFT does not preclude Russian banks from making payments to the West. It's just they're going to take a lot slower. So it's probably going to lead to some, I don't know, failures of delivery of a lot of contracts, and it's going to cause ripple effects across not just a Russian financial system, but the global financial system. So that probably explains the reluctance of the Western governments to use this mechanism just right away. But I think the time will come that it will probably be used. The threat was there starting from 2014, so Russia has been preparing to mitigate the impact, but to some extent.
Yes, I mean, Mr. Putin has indeed been insulating his economy, hasn't he, over the last 5 years or so, a bit more maybe. But that's not a long-term solution for him, is it? I mean, he can't go on forever like that.
No. So basically, if Russia gets excluded from SWIFT, they will be forced to use other methods to pay and order foreign supplies. And one of the alternatives is there is a Chinese bank messaging system, which could serve as a viable alternative, at least in the near term, or maybe medium term. But it will still be a shock to the Russian economy to have to transition parts of the Russian economy to the SWIFT alternative.
Why did Mr. Putin ignore the threat of sanctions? It seems to me that either he doesn't care about the Russian economy, or he thinks that they can be got round somehow. What do you say about that?
I mean, I don't know what he's thinking. Typically, sanctions are leaky. So in a way, over time, there'll probably ways to get around to sell main products that Russia is selling and bypass the Western financial system. So, I mean, countries like Iran are still selling oil. It's just they are forced to take lower prices for it. And it's more, it takes more hoops to jump through. So sanctions will matter in the near term, but in the longer term, they'll probably be somewhat leaky.
Okay, Daniil, we'll end it there. Thank you for your contribution on our program very much.
Thanks for having me.